My name is Marissa and I am the program director at Studio Central, which is our urban arts center in central Winnipeg. And today I would like to share with you a little bit of basics of sketching and blending and how you use your pencils, what's the difference between certain pencils, why do you need more than one? We're gonna learn that today. And I'm gonna show you some kind of basics of, different sketching patterns, myself, how I do like to sketch and compared to just like drawing. I feel there's like a little bit of a difference in it, but you'll decide for yourself. We're really gonna just go over basics today. We're not gonna do anything like a draw along with me. I wanna equip you with some knowledge and techniques, I guess, to show you how to use your pencils. I love sketching though, because it is such an easy thing to take anywhere. You can do it on the bus, you can do it outside, you can do it when you don't have like a typical like art paper, you can do it on the back of a receipt, you can do it on a napkin. All you really need is a pen or a pencil, and that's kind of the magic behind sketching. So I found it's very nice and accessible, and it's also, not a wet or dry, no, it's a dry medium. It's not a wet medium, so again, you can take it anywhere. You can pick up a pen or pencil and doodle a little bit and put your pencil down, walk away for a bit, and you're not gonna smudge it or anything like that. So it's a great medium. To answer the question of why we have so many different pencils, here I have just a few. I need some new ones, as you can see, because some of my pencils are very small compared to the others. But you'll notice on your pencils, sometimes you can see, here's one, it's right there. It'll say like a B. This one is a B. Right here I have an H, and then I have a 2H. What you have is always going to be a little bit different. I don't have a complete set in front of me. Like I said, they're all a little small, but I'm going to show you the basic difference with them. And those little letters at the end of your pencil, an H or a B, will have a number beside it. Like a 2H, a 2B, a 3B. I even have an 8B, which is wild and crazy. But basically, the difference with them is it's a scale on how hard or soft the pencil lead is. So like the graphite in the pencil, how much is in there and how it's compressed. Is there a lot of it? Is there a little bit of it? And that's gonna be on the B side, kind of like a record. The B side is going to be the softer scale. So say the higher the number on a B pencil, that's how soft your lead is. So if you take your pencil and you draw on your paper, if it is a higher on the B scale, you don't have to press that hard, but you're going to get such a strong dark line from it. Versus if I have an H pencil, like this one, the higher number on the H pencil is going to mean that it is packed so much tighter and it's such a harder lead. So if I go really light, my pencil line is going to be really light. If I push a little bit harder, my pencil line is still going to be very light. And, I think a standard like school pencil, those orange ones with the pink eraser that are so iconic, those ones are an HB. So it's like a nice in between. So, it's not too hard, not too soft. The one thing to note about the difference in pencil weights, if you want it to look like very clean lines, maybe do a little bit lower on the B scale, or a little bit kind of in between the H and the B's there. But if you want to do something that's like kind of more expressive or sketchy or whatever you want to call it, then hey, by all means go up higher on that B scale. It's going to blend easier on your paper if you're using, say, one of these blending techniques we're going to show you today, or if you're using like a blending stomp, which I have off camera that I will show you as well. And it smudges a little bit easier too. So if that's the look you're going for, go for a higher scale on the B. But I'm gonna show you, you know, talking about it only does so much. Looking at it and seeing the example does a lot more. So I'm gonna flip the camera around on my side here, and we have our table with all our work here. It is really not too, I'm just gonna adjust this a little bit here. Perfect. The thing that is nice about, again, pencil drawing and sketching is you don't need like a fancy watercolor paper or very thick paper. It really can be on anything. There's a really nice type of paper you can get in big sheets called newsprint, and I really enjoy that for just testing out different drawing styles or techniques, but they come in really large sheets, and it really emphasizes the fact that it's not precious. That's what I like calling them. It's not a precious piece of paper, so it kind of makes you feel a little bit more free, and you can do really whatever you want on the paper. You don't have to worry about making the perfect line because it's more of like a practice and a process piece, which is great. So I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit here so we can see that difference in scale of the weight of the pencil. So we're gonna start off light. We're gonna have a little scale here. I'm just gonna draw with my pencil so you can kind of see. We're gonna go along this line. So first off, we're gonna go kind of in the middle of the line, or a little off to the side, and I am using here an H pencil. And you'll notice my pencils do look different. And that's again because I don't have a complete set right now. But these ones are the Statler brand. This one is Derwent brand, which I believe is UK. These ones would be English, and then I have a fancy Blackwing pencil here. And this one I just got at McNally Robinson. Very fun. But I got that because I'll do the main shading exercises with that larger pencil. But for instance, we have our line here. We're going to go on the scale. So we're going to start kind of in the middle with this H. And we're going to just, with a very light hand, color and shade on this line. Now I'm just going in one direction. And I am putting the weight of my hand. I have a very heavy hand, so when I draw, I am always like, it's either I need to put the weight of my hand on my hand or I'm putting it on the lead. And with drawing with pencils, you don't want to put all your weight of your hand on your pencil lead. One, it's gonna break, but two, you're gonna get a lot of difference in lines there. So that's one of the things, like I can be pushing and I'm getting harder lines, but I'm also getting lighter lines. It's really variant of what you're gonna do. Whereas if you have your weight either controlled on your knee or your arm or however you're drawing, or if you're like me and can't control the weight of your hand, again, just rest it and color that way. Hi, Vicky. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Also, hope you've been doing well. Hope you have some pencils handy. You can draw along too. Yes, we're going lightly, coloring in this, and then right above it, I'm just going to write H, so we can keep track of where that is. Now I'm going to look through my collection of pencils here, and I have a B pencil. Now, this is going to be that standard for all your lead is kind of stuck and clamped together, where this one, the lead and graphite in your pencil, I think they're mostly made of graphite now, not lead, but your graphite in your pencil is going to be a little bit looser. So again, using this, my weight of my hand is resting on the paper itself. I'm going to use the same amount of pressure and shade, and you'll be able to see that my lines already are a little bit thicker, and you can see it kind of gets darker a little bit. And that's a little bit of a difference there. We'll go with a B. And then let's go right up next with, what other pencils do I have? I have a 4B, 5B, and 3. Well, we're gonna go to 3B because I don't have a 2. You may have a 2B in your collection that you have, but clearly my pencil is so teeny tiny. But again, same amount of weight from that first H pencil I was doing. And we can even see that these lines are getting darker than just the B one itself. And it's almost like a gradient that's getting made here. And again, same amount of pressure from that H pencil. But because the graphite in this pencil is a little bit looser connected to each other, you get it darker. We're going to go up 2 more scales. We have our 4B. Again, teeny tiny pencil. I promise I'll get some new ones after this. Using the same amount of pressure. And it's already just getting a really shiny, dark color coming out. I hope you can hear the sound of this pencil on the video. It's very soothing. And the last one up on the scale, oh, I didn't write 4B beside it. The last one up on the scale we're gonna use is a 5B. So again, 5B right there. And it's almost like instantly that we're getting the darker color going. I don't even have to color it very much, and we're getting a darker shade. Again, I'm using the same amount of pressure that I did back here at the H, and I colored this, as you noticed, I started coloring this a lot less time than the other ones. If I were to do the same amount of time as I colored the H or anything else, we're really gonna see how quick and fast that this, I keep wanting to say color, but it's grayscale. But we'll see how fast that our medium comes down onto the paper. So you can see that really intense scale there. Just to go completely contrasted, I have a 2H here, which again, this is kind of nice if you are wanting to go, you know, loose with your sketches. And say for that, you could sketch out your original drawing with the 2H. So I'll just show you here using that same amount of pressure that I was using for the 5B. But it is quite light. And you can of course see once the H scale kind of goes, they really blend together until you go in farther down, everything's going to look very similar. But here we have that big enough jump that you can see even with the exact same amount of pressure and less sketching with the color, you got a very dark line going through. But for instance, like I was saying a moment ago, something that would be really helpful to use this scale for, again, is in sketching. A style of sketching I like to do myself is kind of, I don't know the name of it, but I've heard the name called outline sketching before. So I would take an object of something, like I have my water bottle here, and you can draw things many ways. If I want to draw my water bottle, you can do the shape of it. There's like a little cut line there, and then it goes up. Kind of looks like a little bit of like a pill bottle or something, and then our top, and then it has like a little handle here. So that is one way to draw it. And I kind of put a little bit of pressure in with my handle or my hand, but that's how it looks. The outline type of sketching, and that's how my normal sketching style is, what I would do is rather than having a hard, distinct line and just finishing it in one single line drawing, I'm gonna go very lightly with my hand and kind of sketch out the shapes Really focusing on like having, straight lines, finding shapes that I do like, and it kind of honestly makes you draw slowly, of one, but really makes you focus on what's in front of you and kind of how it looks to your eye, not what you think it looks like onto the, like a water bottle should look like this, so I'm going to draw it this way. Like, nope, it's what you see. Draw what you see, not what you think you see. That's what I was trying to come across. But this will help you kind of draw a little bit more, lack of a better term, 3D. But you can, do lightly with what you see. And then from there, once you are happy with the lines you've made, now you go in, different scale of course, but now you go in with a darker pencil. Say, let's not go straight to that 5B, let's do this 4. Here, you'll go with this, and then you'll pick the lines you like the most, and then draw those distinct lines following all this kind of sketching you've done. So I just find that's a little bit more of like my sketching style personally as an artist. This looks like a can of spray paint, I'll tell you that. But that's how my style would go. So, your lines here are a lot straighter than just this simple line here. Of course, you don't have to go with such a big jump to a thicker pencil. You can use like a similar one to this, so you don't have such a big difference in contrasting colors. But you can really see that with that outline technique where you sketch out your outline first, then take a little bit of a heavier weight pencil and draw it out that way. That's how you can really see the difference in what those shadings are. Now, before we do go on, I would like to say that a very important part of your sketching is your sharpener. You always want to make sure that your pencils are sharp as you're working. When I get in the sort of swing in making my art, I don't want to keep getting up, having to empty out my pencil case because they're so small. They don't store a lot of pencil shavings. But you always want to make sure that you do sharpen your pencil. So I have my pencil here, and it's always such a nice sound too when you do clean it up. But that's a very important thing about when you are sketching or drawing. If you notice that your lines start to get a little bit smudgy, grab a pencil sharpener and try cleaning that up a little bit. So now we are going to do those different types of blending tips. Now I have about 7 different types you could do. Maybe 8. We'll see how one kind of goes. But there are 7 different types. One is called hatching. We'll have cross hatching. We'll go with contour and a little bit of cross contour. Then we can go with random lines, stippling, and kind of like squiggly circles. So those are the different ones we're going to look at today. And let's get going. I'm going to have us just zoom in here a little bit closer. So the first one we are going to do is called hatching. Now, it's all different to each artist, how they want to get their work on the paper. Something I just kind of looked at is that I was watching this one artist do sketching, and what they did was that they made sure that every different type of sketching technique they went through 5 passes of it. So, and this was for blending. So say for hatching is a technique where you take your pencil and you will just, we'll go hatching. Write that down so we can remember. But what you will do is you will take your pencil and you will just go in one line. One direction, and you'll start off making them a little bit spaced out, and you will just go again from one side. Now from here that we've done this, we're going to do that second pass. And the second pass we're going to do is we're going to do the shading again with this hatching, but we're not going to go the full length that we did. We're just going to go halfway. And I know it's difficult because we're just learning here, but try and get your pencil to be the same weight every time you press down. But it is tricky. And that's why we're practicing. Okay, we're going to do our third pass now. And again, we're going to stop part of the way. We're not going to go all the way up to that next line. And then the fourth. And you'll see really this 5 passing through technique is really just showing how many times and how many layers it kind of takes for you to notice a little bit of a darker shade. Because I'm not pushing any different, I'm just going over these lines multiple times. And now we're going to do that 5th pass through, which is just short at the bottom here. So again, hatching, one line, one direction, across your paper. And I kind of went a little out there, but you'll see it goes from light to medium to dark to very dark. So that's hatching. Now we're going to do something very similar, but it's called cross hatching. Cross hatching. So before we begin, of course, remember, keep that pencil sharp. It's not, of course, necessary to do all the time, but just because I am showing you with, a difference in lines, I want to make sure that you really can see the sharpness of the piece here. So cross hatching, very similar, kind of. You're only putting your pencil in one direction, but every time we are going into a new layer, we're going to be moving our hand slightly and going in that whole direction. Now there are 2 types of cross hatching. There is one where, you are just making lines and then making parallel, or is it contradicting parallel? What are words? You make some vertical lines, you do some horizontal lines, cross hatching. That's one way. A way that I just found out today, actually, which looked quite cool. Very similar to the beginning hatching, where we just take our line, go across the paper. We have our one line there. And now we are going to cross it with that second pass through, but rather than going straight this way, just move it slightly. And we're gonna, so you'll begin to see this like crisscross pattern through. There. Now our third pass, moving our hand again slightly, and we're gonna go from here. And our next pass. Now we're basically horizontal to our previous lines. And our last pass. So there you can see the difference of just the hatching and then this new type of cross hatching that we learned together. So again, doing just the one line straight, and then every pass you're going through, you can go a little bit different of a degree, turn a little bit more of a degree and go through. But again, that's one way of cross-hatching. The other way, like I've done previously and more traditionally, have your pencil go one way and then make your pencil go the next. Two different types of cross-hatching there. Now we're going to do a technique called contour. Now this is going to be kind of similar to this hatching up at the top here, where you know you're just starting from one side and then going over to the next, and you're not, again, going back and forth, but you're just going over there. We're going to call this again contour. So what we're going to do is start from one side and kind of like we're going over like a little bit of a mountain, little like waterfall. And now that we've done this, we're going to do that next pass through, which again is just going to stop a little bit before our last pass through where that end is. And this technique of going, you know, a little bit and stopping, a little bit more and then stopping in these pass throughs is really just to show the difference in definition of how it gets darker over time. So with our third pass through, we're going to go about halfway. Next, we're going to go like about a quarter. And the last one is just the bottom. But you can see how it goes, you really get that contour line, but you can see again how it's lighter and then it progressively gets darker there. Now with that cross contour, it is so similar to what we just did. And previously what we did, we're going to combine the two things we just learned with the hatching, the cross hatching, and the cross contouring. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with that main sort of curve. And it's going to look a little crazy, but we're going to try and cross it with this next pass through. And these are all just meant to kind of explore different types of shading. You find what's best for you and what works for you. Myself personally, I actually don't use any of these initial blending techniques that I'm teaching you right now. I don't actually use many of these. I use the ones that are coming up next. I think it just fits a little bit more with my sort of sketched, more loose drawings. And these are the ones that I personally enjoy more. So one is called Random Lines. So not a very fancy title, Random Lines. And this one, gonna really need to make sure that my pencil is sharp for it. There we go. So Random Lines kind of sounds exactly what it is. What you're gonna do is you're just going to put your pencil down on the paper and squiggle. I really enjoy how this one turns out and looks. I especially enjoy doing this with like pen sketching or like a fine liner sketching. Because I feel like it gives such an interesting and cool look to it. So what I'm doing is I'm just making, they kind of always look like figure eights or something like that. But I'm gonna make one pass through of just these squiggles to get this shape down. And then now we're gonna do that second pass through, do the whole squiggle sequence again, but we are going to only go up about 3/4 of the way. I should have made this much smaller, but that's not happening. Now, because I have a very soft graphite pencil, it does really blend in quite quickly. I may want to, you know, do like a lighter weight one another time, but we're already in here. We don't want to change pencils now. That was the second pass through. Third one, we're going to go only halfway. And remember, I was just doing it, but be careful not to rest your hand and the weight of your arm on your pencil lead, because again, that's what causes it to break, and that's what causes your drawing to have difference in pencil weights. So that's our third pass through. Now we're going to do that fourth one, lower at the ground here, or the bottom of our drawing, not the ground. And the last one. So you can really see what gets from this wide sort of crazy lined drawing. After a while, it really just kind of gets like a static or a fuzz at the bottom. And I find it's a really interesting technique. The one that's very similar to this, it's kind of like the random lines, but it's just called circles. And rather than doing jagged lines, you're really just going in at a circle. And these are, again, just abstracted ways to shade and to blend. You do what feels best with your style and what looks best with your work, what's most comfortable for you. And you know what? If you want to kind of make a hybrid of all these different types of blending and pick your own and create your own out of this, I say go for it. That could be such a interesting turn on all of these here. So that's the circle one there. So again, you can see light to medium to all the way down to dark. Now, the last one that I want to show you that we're just blending just by using the pencil, no additional blending tools here. It's very similar actually to one that we've seen before, or maybe you haven't seen yet and you will. It's kind of similar to pointillism, which Brad teaches a lot of times, but it's called stippling. And that is really a type of shading and blending exercise that takes a little bit more patience, but it's where you start with your dots and you gotta, I know Brad always tells me to go up and down. Sometimes my dots come little lines, and that's okay. But what you do is you just stamp up and down, and your beginning of the area is going to be more spaced out lines. And that's going to be that first pass through is more spaced out. And then your second pass through is just going over the same area, but starting to condense your dots more. I find that this type of shading takes a very long time, but this is one of those types of art forms really, that I find personally very relaxing. Because a lot of times when I'm drawing or sketching, I'm kind of caught up on what's it gonna look like or what's the end result gonna be. Whereas this kind of just makes me focus on making those dots and making sure that I'm getting them in the right spots, or even I can look up and not get them in the right spots, but it adds to the drawing after. Kind of adds that like outline to it. But that's stippling. Again, similar to pointillism, which we'll have a whole workshop on. But I find this one quite relaxing. There we go. Now, just reviewing all of these are all different types of blending techniques you can do with just a pencil. You don't need any additional tools. If you do want to learn one more that you can do with additional tools, you will need a blending stomp. Now these you can purchase and pick up anywhere. As you can tell, mine are a little dirty because they were in my pencil case. And they were stored in little bags. So they have a little bit of a residue on them. But these are just very hard twisted pieces of like cotton fibers. And you use these to blend out work that you've done. If you don't have one of these, you also can take a Kleenex. What you can do is very similar. You can take a Kleenex and wrap it around your finger or kind of twist it very tightly, and you're going to get a similar effect to one of those blending stomps. So that's a fun little idea, but I'll show you how it looks. So you'll take your pencil, whatever one you do choose, and you can do any one of those past blending exercises we did, but what I like to do is I just like to do the simple back and forth. So it's kind of like a hatching, but rather than going just one direction, we're going back and forth with it. So I want to show how the blending looks. So I'm going to do like a larger space here. I'm going to kind of do like a gradient of color. And that's just, you know, going over one side longer than the other so it gets darker. And we'll need it to come out a little bit more. But again, be careful by pushing the same amount of pressure on. And that is another type of exercise that does take time. It does take time to sort of understand and how to practice it with your own hand weight. But it's a really great tool to use once you master it, for lack of a better term, of course. See, myself, when I drag my hand around my paper, sometimes I can like drag different patterns or color across it. And, you know, some people might not think that looks good in the end because it's smudged in a way. But I kind of look at it as like it's the tracing of my hands along the process, really, of what I was making. And we'll just go much lighter out here. Almost barely any weight on that pencil. So now you can see I have this sort of dark to light gradient that we have going on. And if we'll just bring you very close to it here, you can see all that white in between the pencil is just the paper showing through. So my paper has a teeny bit of a tooth to it. Nothing really you could see, but I really like seeing how that shines through on the pencil. How we use our blending stomp, it is so simple. What we just did in this area, I'm going to do half of it with the blending stomp, and I'm going to leave the other half of it so we can compare them together. What you're going to do is you're just pretend like you are drawing with a pencil, and you are just going to rub in the color together. And it's really going to push that graphite into any of the lines of the paper that haven't been touched by it, and it's going to make a very smooth appearance. So this is something you can do as well to work in layers of your drawing too, where this kind of burnishes your pencil drawing. It might leave it a little bit shiny, it might press in the color and the pigment, but you can usually go in and add a little bit extra detail on top if you want to like do that with a pen, or if you want to do it with like some pencil, maybe you can try and get a little bit of the color on. But this is just a very nice and interesting way to blend your pencils. And you can do this in any type of drawing you do. You can do it just in a simple sketch, or you can do it in a whole beautiful masterpiece that you put together. I always do like testing it out though on like scraps of paper like we're doing here, and just kind of play around with your tools and play around with your material and get comfortable with it. So kind of a tip when you are, say, drawing like an object or a face or something, if you want to work on some light and dark and shadows and all that, you can do it as you would think. If there is a big beam of light coming down onto this object, where is the light? So where is the shadow? Is it up there in a room? Is it the sun? Is it something like that? And then that area that is facing the light is going to be a lot brighter, and the areas away from it are going to be darker. So if you want to, say, shade a box or shade like a sphere, that's where this handy tip will come in. Faces and objects can get a little trickier because they're 3D, but I'll show you on my bottle here. But before we do that, just to show you the difference in that blending, we have the one side where it was just done with the pencil and using a gradient light to dark, and then we have this side where we use that blending stomp, which really just blends everything together. You can see this was just that before and after, so it really is interesting how it works like that. So what I was saying with that, how the light kind of comes down onto something. So let's pretend the light is shining on this bottle here. So we have our sun. I'm going to draw it in the corner. Oh, lovely little sun right there. And I have my bottle out in the sun. Not a great idea because it's going to get really hot and then I can't drink it. But if the sun was shining down, the light would kind of come like this. So all this side of my bottle is going to be bright and it's going to be white. I don't have like the different colors that my bottle is, so I'm just doing this like monochromatic. So this front area, we're trying to visualize this as a 3D image. This front area onward is going to be light. Everything behind it, like this area, that's not facing the sun. So it's not lit up by anything, so it's going to be darker. So what we can do, try to add some life in this. We'll see how it goes. We'll take our pencil and just start from the back here and add some shading down to it. And again, this is all about patience and working in layers. You can, of course, like I'm going really lightly, but if I use my pencil really hard, I can get a strong color right away, instantly. Like I can get it almost black on the paper there. But going with something lightly, you can slowly build up that color, and that really helps working light to dark. You don't want to work dark to light, of course, because you got to lift that color, and that's when an eraser of sorts comes in, like a moldable eraser, and that's another workshop. That'll come later. But going back to our, just shading this item here. So this side, we're gonna get darker. Of course, I had to draw this so big, so it might take a little bit of time. But yes, we're getting this side dark. Now I want to believe that the sun's kind of peeking over top here too, so we're not going to color that whole top part. And then we're going to have it over here. But it's going to, again, this is where that gradient's going to come through. So this is going to be a little bit lighter than the rest of the shadow. But this area is going to get darker. And that's where the patience, the pressure, everything comes in. Putting your pressure down on your hand for more color to be coming through. And then this would obviously have some color on it too. And then, you know, if we really want to get fancy, there'd be a shadow coming out. And for shadows, I kind of just like making it roughly the shape that it's there. It's always a little bit distorted. Okay, so now that we have this here, I can go back in with my pencil and like heighten some lines a little bit more, make them a little darker, put that pressure on a little bit more. And we got our sun on our bottle. We got our shadow. And there's the blending. Of course, if you wanted to, you can always go in with your blending stomp again and go over this lightly. It doesn't even have to be fully that you blend it in. You can always do it a little bit light. But that's just like another way to get the blending going on your work. Voila! So this is just kind of the, I guess, the blending that we did where we're just bringing the pencil up and down and then we use the stomp afterwards. But the basics of blending, it isn't too complex. And just for review, we have these other types that you can do. We have the hatching, cross-hatching, contour, cross-contour, random squiggly lines, which is my personal favorite. We have the circles and then the stippling, which comes at a close second for personal favorites. And then we just have blending with the blending stomps. Ooh, so that's that. Hello, welcome back. That is our little crash course of the basics of blending. I like pencils. I really enjoy pencils. I think they're a great medium you can bring anywhere, and they're just, you get some really beautiful work out of them. Next time, I promise I will do a workshop on erasers and different types of erasers, because that's a fun thing to get into with sketching, but not today. I hope you do have fun with your pencils that you have and try something out, and if you always make something that you like, please feel free to share it with us, because we'd be happy to see what you're working on as well as just share it with other people. That's nice.